Dear students, you are welcome in this class. Good afternoon to all of you. In this class, we are going to discuss rice growing seasons and regions in India and some climatic requirements. So, our learning objective are to learn about the rice growing seasons in India and in world, how many seasons are there in different parts of the world, and to have understanding of the various rice production regions, how Indian rice growing regions are divided into different groups, to know the kind of soils in which rice grows well in India and abroad, because rice can be grown in all kind of soils and it is being grown in variety of soil. I think no soil group is there where rice cannot be grown. So we will discuss in detail about rice soils and to have understanding of climatic conditions. Particularly, we will discuss temperature, solar radiation, and water requirement of rice crop. So these we are going to cover in next 35-40 minutes. So if we see growing seasons, so rice is definitely grown widely under varying conditions of altitude and climate. Climate, it can vary from temperate up to tropical. So you can see variability in rice growing conditions. So seasons differ due to temperature, rainfall, soil types, water availability, and other climatic conditions. So depending upon these parameters, your seasons vary. In eastern and southern region, mean temperature is favorable throughout the year. Therefore, 2 or 3 crops are possible. So we will see what are the areas in India where 2 or 3 crops are possible. We'll look for China also. There are certain areas in eastern and southern China where 3 crops of rice are possible. So in north and western parts of India, rainfall is high. Definitely rainfall is high in Kharif, and winter temperature is fairly low in winter. So 1 crop is possible. In north and western India, because of this low temperature, rice cannot be grown during winter months. So only 1 crop is taken, that is during Kharif season. So therefore, depending upon climatic conditions, there are 3 different seasons of rice growing in India. That is autumn, winter, and summer. This autumn, winter, and summer name comes from the harvesting time. If rice is harvested in autumn months, then it is autumn rice, winter months, and then summer months. So you can see there are 3 seasons. Autumn rice is also called as pre-Kharif rice. The sowing is done in the month of May to June and harvested in September, October. That is your autumn period. And it has been known since by different names like Os in West Bengal, Ahu in Assam, Biali, Odisha, Badai, Bihar, Vripu, Kerala, and different names. And area is very small. 66%, only 6% crop is grown in season, and mostly short duration varieties are grown 90 to 110 days. Next is winter rice, that is also known as Kharif rice. It is the main rice crop in whole India, where about 86% production comes from this rice. We have seen yesterday in the yesterday's class. So it is the main transplanting or sowing time in June, July, and harvested in winter months of November and December. And its name are like Aman in West Bengal, Sali in Assam, Sarad in Odisha, Agheni in Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh, Sarawa in Andhra Pradesh. So different names are there. And 86 or 86.5% of the country's rice production is from this season. And medium to long duration varieties are used during the main season of rice, which is almond rice or your winter rice. Now you can see summer rice or Rabi rice. It has got different names: Boro in Assam and West Bengal, Dalwa in Odisha, Dalwa in Andhra Pradesh, Punja in Kerala, Navarai in Tamil Nadu, and Garma in Bihar. Garma is perhaps from the hot season. Sorry. So sowing time is from November to February. November to February is the sowing time. Therefore, it is Rabi, and harvesting time is March to June. So this is your summer rice. Area under summer rice is only 8%, and mostly early maturing varieties are used. So typically you can see there are 3 seasons, and there are in some areas only 1 crop is possible. In others, 2 or 3 crops are also possible. Now you can see how many crops are possible in India. So sowing and harvesting periods in India. I will show you 1 or 2 slides related to this topic, and rest you can see yourself depending upon your interest. Suppose if you want to know what is the season of growing rice in Haryana, Punjab, UP, or some other parts, you can go through these slides. For example, in Haryana, sowing time may be from May to July, and harvesting time may be from September to October. Similarly, in Gujarat, June, July, you can see in western and northern states, 1 crop is possible. But you see northeastern states like in Assam, May, June to September, October, June, July to November, December, and then December to February to May to June. So here, in some parts of Assam, 3 crops can be taken: rice, rice, rice. See some other parts like in Bihar also. In some parts of Bihar, 3 crops are possible. In East MP, only 1 crop is possible. Odisha, 3 crops. East UP, West Bengal, 3 crops are possible. And so on. You can see in South India, where temperature during winter months is not low. So rice can be grown during that time also. So in most of the South Indian states, you can see there can be 3 rice seasons. Otherwise, 2 crops of rice are very easily taken in many parts. Rice growing regions in India. After season, you see the region. So it has been divided into 5. India can be divided into 5 regions, rice growing 5 regions. And you can see rice can be grown below the sea level also, up to the height of 2000 meters in Jammu and Kashmir. Northeastern region, Assam and northeastern states are part of this. And in Assam, basin of Brahmaputra River, very high, heavy rainfall in these areas, and mostly rain-fed rice. In these regions, rice is mostly rain-fed. In eastern region like Bihar, Chhattisgarh, MP, Odisha, East UP, West Bengal, it is grown in basins of Ganga and Mahanadi rivers, highest intensity of rice cultivation in the country, in eastern region. And these are mostly traditional rice growing areas. Heavy rainfall and mostly rain-fed in eastern region. Then northern regions like Haryana, Punjab, Western UP, Uttaranchal, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, single crop is grown in this part. Western region comprising of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, they are also largely rain-fed. Southern region like Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, deltaic tract of Godavari River, Krishna, Kaveri, and the non-deltaic rain-fed area of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, and grown under irrigated condition of deltaic tracts. So these regions are rich in water, they have river, they have rainfall. So rice can be grown throughout the year in these areas, and mostly irrigated rice. You can see rice crop calendar by country. If you are interested to know what are the planting time and harvest time of rice in different countries and what are the seasons, you can go through these slides. I will share within 2-3 days, you will get these presentations. So for example, if you are interested to know Myanmar, in Myanmar, what is the time? So main season is in June. June is the planting time, and November to January is the harvesting time. Similarly, second crop in Myanmar, starting in November and March to May. So you can look for other countries also, if you are interested, you can know when rice is grown in different countries. So you can see. So now you can see, for example, in USSR, it is in April, May, and August, September, one crop. Maybe in some part, it is not that whole USSR. These are the peak of planting time in the world. You can see the pink color, light pink color, January. So you can see what are the areas in the world in which January is the month for planting. Similarly, you can see color and the planting time in different countries of the world. About rice, this is second crop of rice, and this is third crop of rice. You can see where the three seasons are there, or three crops are taken. This is interesting. You can see these are the red regions. Red regions, they can take two crops in a year. Sorry, three crops. The red regions in the world map, you can see the red one. You can take three crops or three seasons of rice. And in India also, you can see in the eastern and southern part of India, you can take three crops of rice. Now, after the sowing season or sowing time and different regions in the country, now we go to soil and climatic requirement of rice. So in your view, what kind of soil should be good for rice cultivation? Dhyan.
Yes, sir.
What kind of soil should be good for rice cultivation?
So, soil texture with more clay.
More clay, definitely. Any other point?
With good water holding capacity.
Yeah,
It is continuous submergence.
yeah, very good.
And thank you, sir.
Yeah, good idea. Means normally higher the clay contents, more is the water holding capacity of the soil, and less are the percolation losses also. So generally heavy texture soils, clay soil, clay loam, silt loam, soils like this, even sandy clay loam, these soils are good for rice because they can retain water for longer time. So water losses by percolation are also less in those soils. So therefore, heavy texture soils are good. However, even rice can be grown in light texture soils. Any kind of soil with proper water management and crop management, one can grow rice in all kind of soils. So let us start with. So rice grows in wider varieties of soils than any other food crop. Soils used in growing rice should have a good water holding capacity. So this is the prerequisite. Your soil should be having good water holding capacity because water requirement of rice is very high and it requires water throughout the growing season. You must have seen yesterday in one of the pictures, I have shown you about Australia program. So they used to keep some water, standing water in the field during vegetative growth, and then during reproductive growth stage, standing water is must, and followed by at ripening stage, you can keep lower levels of water. So proper water management is necessary. So to retain water in soil, you need good water holding soils. The wide range of agroclimatic conditions suggest an equally wide variety of soils. Okay, climate changes, and so are the changes in soil. So soils of one climate, under one climate, soils developed under one kind of climate may be different from soils developed in other kind of climate. I think you understand role of climate in soil development, parent material, and so many things affect the soil type. So in different climates, you will have different soils, and rice can grow in all kind of soils. But you can say heavy neutral soils. If somebody asks you, tell me the best soils for rice cultivation, your answer could be heavy neutral soils, clay or clay loam and loamy soil are the best, but it can be grown up to light texture soils. So for rice cultivation, heavy neutral soils, maybe clay loam and loamy soils are the best, and it can be grown up to light texture soils. And you can see the cases where rice can be grown in different kind of soils. It can be grown in loamy sands in Punjab, to heavy vertisols in Andhra Pradesh, maybe in Madhya Pradesh, maybe in other regions. Vertisols, it can be grown. Important group of soils are alluvial soils, mostly in northern states, red soils in eastern states, laterite or lateritic soils, and black soils in central and west India. It prefers slightly acidic pH, but can grow in pH 5 to 8 range. Normal pH is 5 to 8 range, provided some water is there in the soil. Also grown on acid peaty soils of Kerala, where pH can be 3, and highly alkaline soil pH 10 of Punjab, in some part of Punjab, Haryana and UP in India. So you can see the range of soil pH from 3 to 10, but normally it is 5 to 8. Now you can see the variety of soils, because under different climatic conditions like different annual rainfall and different temperature range and different vegetation, different varieties of soil have been developed. And you can see the first rest, you can see yourself. In humid Western Himalayan region, for example, states are Jammu, Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Kumayu, Garhwal regions. And you can see rainfall is less than 150 centimeter and temperatures 0 to 4 in January, and highest can be in July 5 to 30 degrees centigrade. And soils are sub-mountainous soils, hill soils, and Tarai soils. So likewise, you will see in different states of India, varying climatic conditions and varying kind of soils. So in all these varieties of soils, alluvial soil, laterite soil, and your laterite sorts, all kind of, there is no soil in India where rice cannot be grown. So you can see soils of India for purpose of rice cultivation, and suborders are given by Murthy 1978. So you can see alluvial derived soils, calcareous alluvial soils, coastal deltaic alluvium, laterite, black, mixed red, brown, all sorts of soils, even saline alkali soils, rice is grown, peaty and saline peaty soils, histosols, rice is grown. You can see wider adaptability of rice to soil conditions. Of course, some problems are also there in problem soils. Some saline soils have some excess accumulation of or some yield limiting factors, like inland saline source. High pH could be an issue. Deficiencies of zinc, nitrogen, and phosphorus. In acid saline soils, aluminum toxicity can be there, iron toxicity, phosphorus deficiency. So it can be grown even under those kind of conditions, those kind of problems. So you have seen variety of soils where rice can be grown, rice is being grown. Now we switch over to climatic conditions or climatic requirement of rice. So basically rice is a tropical plant, most of you might be knowing, and it needs relatively higher temperature, but not more than 40 degrees centigrade temperature and not less than 20 degrees centigrade temperature. So generally 20 to 40 degrees centigrade temperature, rice can be grown successfully. But interesting fact is that if you move towards higher temperature, then indica rices are common. And if you move towards lower temperature, then japonica rices are successful or are being adopted. So you can see about temperature, definitely climatic factors directly affect the crop plant growth and development through impacting physiological and biochemical processes. Your temperature, your solar radiation, your water all affect biochemical and physiological processes in rice plant, and they indirectly affect plant growth through diseases and insect infestation. So these factors are very, very important in adaptation of a crop to particular conditions of a state or a place. So just I want to know from you, why temperature is important for plants? Why plant needs some ideal temperature, some optimum temperature? Why it is so? Yeah, Subrata, Sonali, can you answer? What is role of temperature in plant growth?
The different phenological stages of related with temperature and the enzymatic activation is also necessary. It is depend on temperature.
Very good.
And sir,
And
heat unit also there.
Temperature
Heat
increases, food
unit.
increases also, sir.
Very good.
And sir, because of heat unit, without a certain temperature, heat unit cannot be achieved.
Yeah, very nice. So there are many roles of temperature. You can go on speaking the role of temperature. All sorts of physiological or biochemical reactions in plants or activities in plants are directly influenced by these climatic factors, particularly temperature. So temperature is important for photosynthesis. Right temperature will give you maximum photosynthesis. Your
grain filling period.
expiration, your water uptake, nutrient availability, root growth, and so forth. There are many roles of temperature. So if a plant is getting ideal temperature, then the growth will be better, otherwise not. So you can see that this environmental temperature may affect species distribution. You can start with distribution also. You know, the vegetation of temperate climate will be different from tropical climate. So species distribution, if you go to the mountains, you will find different kind of vegetation. Photosynthesis is very important, influenced by temperature. And then dry matter accumulation is the result of photosynthesis. He already told phenological development, it is necessary. And length of the vegetative period is also determined by temperature. So lower the temperature, longer is the vegetative period. And you also know concept of degree days. If you know the concept of degree days, it is related to temperature. This will be taught to you by some other instructor in modern concepts in agronomy or in crop production. So modern concepts in crop production. Also, length of the grain filling period is affected. See the case of wheat. In case of wheat, if terminal heat stress is there, the grain will mature very fast. If temperature are low, then the grain filling period will be lengthened. It will be longer. So many times this temperature affects the grain filling also. So basically rice originated in tropical or subtropical areas and is a low temperature sensitive crop. Rice is more sensitive to low temperature compared to high temperature. Krishnan, she reported that growth and development of rice is severely damaged below 15 degrees centigrade. So ideally, Yoshida 1981 reported that the critically low and high temperature are 20 and 30 degrees centigrade respectively. So on an average, rice will do best if it is grown between 20 to 30 degrees centigrade temperature. However, this range will differ from species to species for different varieties, different regions, but these are very average, very general values, 20 to 30 degrees centigrade. Now see Tanaka and Ishii, 1977 noted that temperature up to 35 degrees centigrade cause no decline in rice net photosynthesis, but temperature above 39 will result in reduced photosynthesis, reduced net photosynthesis. So according to them, 30 up to 35, you can have good photosynthesis rates. Leaf temperature can be 3 degrees centigrade higher or lower than air temperature as a result of solar radiation and transpiration. Now question comes that what is the sensitive stage that is most sensitive to temperature? The stage of rice most sensitive to low temperature and high temperature is about 10 days before and after flowering. Means 10 days before flowering and 10 days after flowering is the most critical for temperature. This growth is still spikelet number and weight are adversely affected. If there is
হাওয়াই দিও
very low temperature or high,
খাইতে পারবো না তাহলে
then during this phase, then the optimum, then there will be a reduction in spikelet number or their filling, etc. Shimono spikelet sterility induced by low temperature, particularly booting stage, 10 to 12 days before heading is booting stage. At that stage also, if there is adverse temperature, then it can affect spikelet fertility, or you will have more sterile spikelets. So two factors cause cold injury to rice. Many times cold injury is also possible in some areas, certain areas. So how this cold injury happens to rice, maybe because of cool weather, suddenly there is change in weather, or cold irrigation water. So these two factors can result in cold injury in rice. The common type of symptoms caused by low temperature are, because of low temperature, there will be poor germination, slow growth and discoloration of seedlings, stunted vegetative growth, reduced height and tilling. Height will be reduced, tilling will be reduced, delayed heading. Heading will be delayed. And there may be incomplete panicle exertion. Means panicle may remain covered with the flag leaf. Only part of the panicle will be out of the flag leaf. Prolonged flowering means irregular heading will be there. Degeneration of spikelets means breakage in spikelets, irregular maturity, sterility, formation of abnormal grains. So these are the problems associated with cold injury to rice crop, and they will ultimately result in reduced grain yield of the rice. You can see how this low temperature influence. This is from Canada, 1972. So you know about the hill. Hill is the place where seedlings are transplanted. So if you have a spacing of 20 by 20, so at 20 centimeter, when you transplant 2-3 plant, that particular growth of rice is a hill, H-I-L-L, hill. So from something into a heap. So now you see low temperature may result in poor germination. Start from the top left, poor germination, leaf discoloration, and then death of plants can also happen. So because of these three, poor germination means plant per unit will be less, leaf discoloration means growth will be affected, and death of plants. So because of this, due to low temperature, number of hills per unit area will be reduced. Now come to number 2, low tiller number. At low temperature, low tiller number will be there. Leaf discoloration will also happen, and stunting, the reduced growth of the or reduction in height. So it will result in panicles per hill. Number of panicles per hill will be reduced. So if panicles per hill are reduced, if number of hills per unit area are reduced, then panicle number per unit area will decline. Now come to number 3, incomplete panicle exertion. Part of the panicle is covered by flag leaf. Degenerated or broken spikelets, they are not getting filled. So it will result in number of spikelet per panicle reduced. Number of spikelet per panicle reduced. So now you see panicles per meter per unit area reduced, panicle spikelet reduced, then total spikelet per unit area will reduce. And if total spikelet per unit area are decreased, that means total grain per unit area are also decreased. Now go to the left side, non-viable pollen. Due to low temperature, your pollen may not be viable, or failure of anthesis. Flower will not open due to low temperature. It will increase the spikelet sterility. So percent spikelet sterility will increase or fertility will decrease. And then it will result in total grains per unit area reduction in the number of total grains per unit area. Come to the leaf discoloration on the left side. Size of spikelet is reduced. It can also result in degree of spikelet filling, because leaf discoloration will result in reduce photosynthesis. So grain filling will be affected, and finally grain yield will be affected. Delayed heading. So overall, you can see adverse effect of low temperature will result in reduction in the grain yield, mainly by reduction in the panicles per meter square, spikelet sterility, and total grains or filled grain per unit area are reduced. Therefore, grain yield is reduced. So they have low temperature have effect on vegetative growth, on reproductive growth, as well as on grain filling growth of rice. Now see optimum temperature. It has been prescribed by many people. You got low, optimum, high. For germination, minimum temperature is 10, optimum is 20 to 35, and maximum is 45. So you can go through it and you can see a different temperature. For anthesis, you can see 22 is minimum and 32, 33 is the best. So you need to remember this value. This is asked in your exam. What is the ideal temperature, optimum temperature for anthesis or flowering in rice plant? Answer is 32, 33 degree centigrade. Minimum is 22, maximum is 35. Similarly, for ripening stage, you please remember this value. 20 to 25 degrees centigrade is the optimum temperature during ripening stage of rice. And for flowering, it is 30 to 33 degree centigrade. So from this slide, you can remember at least that for germination, minimum temperature is 10, highest is 45. For anthesis, 30 to 33, and for ripening, 20 to 25 degrees centigrade temperature. These three values are important. So low temperature disrupt pollen development, shortage of sound pollen at the flowering stage. There are differences among the genotypes in relation to cold tolerance. Yoshida reported that anthesis is the stage when rice is most sensitive to high temperature at the anthesis stage. Heat sensitive processes of anthesis. See how much work is being done by rice plant in 45 minutes. What it is doing, anthesis is happening. Anther is opening or breaking, anther dehiscence. Then pollination is taking place. Pollen germination has started, and to a later extent, pollen tube formation has started. And all is happening in 45 minutes. If a rice plant or rice crop get adverse temperature during these 45 minutes, then spikelet fertility will be adversely affected. And overall, fertilization can complete in individual floret in 1.5 to 4 hours. So it takes very less time to get pollination and fertilization. Spikelet tissue temperature should not be more than 33.7 degrees centigrade. So temperature, I have already told you about flowering. So if your temperature is going beyond 33 degrees centigrade, then your flowering, pollination, and your fertilization is affected. Now, after temperature, now you see solar radiation. Solar radiation is important, and I will teach you in another course about light intensity, light duration, and light quality, etc. So here in brief, you understand that solar radiation is important for your photosynthesis, because light is part of your solar radiation and it affects your photosynthesis. And photosynthesis affects the dry matter production or leaf area or production of carbohydrate, and then growth of the crops. So radiation is very, very important. Light or solar radiation controls morphogenesis and productivity in crop plants, a primary driver of energy and water balance of the soil plant atmosphere continuum. The world's top rice yielding regions are those that receive the most solar radiation. So higher the solar radiation, higher is the yield. I gave you example of Egypt. In Egypt, yields were very high. Yields are still high. So this light or bright light plays important role in Egypt. Besides other factor, they get good light. Average radiation in tropical areas is about twice that of temperate areas. So in temperate areas, rice may take longer time to mature. In tropical areas, comparatively, it will take less time to mature. And also in tropical areas, it gets. So welcome back in the class, and the average radiation in tropical areas is about twice that of temperate areas. That is advantage for people like us, or advantage in many tropical countries. Light advantage is there. So tropical areas have approximately twice the yield producing potential per hectare per year than in temperate areas, assuming there are no additional limiting factors. So as such, radiation is very, very important factors. You can see that tropical areas have double potential to produce yield of crops if other factors are not limiting. Now, I think as a student, you might be knowing the unit of solar energy, solar radiation. Unit of solar energy is calorie per centimeter square per day, also expressed as kilojoule per meter square per second. 1 kilojoule per meter square per second is equal to 1.43 calorie per centimeter square per minute. And the solar radiation requirement of rice vary according to growth stages. Means as like temperature you have seen, the temperature requirement varies with the stage of the crop. Similarly, this solar radiation requirement varies with the stage or phase of the rice plant. High amounts needed during reproductive and grain filling than vegetative stage. You need more solar radiation during grain filling and reproductive stages than vegetative stage. So influence of solar radiation on yield can be described as, you can see lower value are required or lower levels are required during vegetative growth stage, and still higher solar radiation is required at grain filling stage, and then reproductive stage you need highest at reproductive stage. So it means reproductive growth stage is the most sensitive for solar radiation. If there is some shortage, there is some deficiency in solar radiation, then yield will be affected or growth will be affected the most, and vice versa. If you get limitation of solar radiation at vegetative yield, vegetative stage, the growth will be affected, the yield will be affected, but not as much as when you have it at reproductive growth stage. So reproductive growth stage is most sensitive to solar radiation. Now, if the grain yield is 5 tons per hectare, this is just to get some idea, some importance of solar radiation. A solar radiation of 300 calorie per centimeter square per day during the reproductive stage is sufficient. When grain yield is more than 5 ton per hectare, higher radiation is required. Yoshida 1981 reported that in order to obtain a grain yield of 7 tons per hectare, solar radiation of 500 to 600 calorie per centimeter square per day is required. Means if you want to get higher yields, then you should definitely have higher solar radiation. It does not matter what kind of varieties of plant you are taking, but if you are taking high yielding plants that yield about 7 to 8 tons, then you should have higher solar radiation to realize the yield potential. So here it is just showing you the value of solar radiation. Now, now the question comes regarding solar radiation, that can we manage it? Can we manipulate it? Yes, if we know the time of solar radiation, what time you will get ideal solar radiation, according to that one can manipulate the sowing time or planting time so that it coincides with the required level of solar radiation. So something can be done in this regard if other factors are not affecting the sowing or planting time. Now, water requirement. Water is the very precious input in agriculture, and so is the case in rice, and it is the main climatic factor that determines the yield. High crop yield is expected when the solar moisture regime is maintained at an adequate level during the whole crop growth cycle. I will be dealing in detail about the water management in rice. Here just you can see that how much water requirement of rice is there. So Yoshida 1981 reviewed water requirement of irrigated rice in 43 locations across Asia, China, Japan, Korea, Philippines, etc. And he said that water loss was 1.5 to 9.8 millimeter per day in transpiration. See the range of transpiration was 1.5 to 9.8 because of differences in temperature. Differences in temperature, you will find water loss by transpiration different. And then similarly for evaporation, range was 1 to 6.2 millimeter per day evaporation and 0.2 to 15.6 millimeter per day in percolation. This percolation will be affected by some other factors like type of soil, porosity, structure, texture of the soil. They will affect the percolation. So overall, you can see the total water loss was 5.6 to 20.4 millimeter per day. So if you take just average value of 5 and 20, suppose it is 10. So 10 millimeter per day water loss is there, including percolation and all other losses. So if your crop is for 120 days, then you may need on an average about 1200 millimeters of water. This is just an idea. So Yoshida further reported that on average, 180 to 300 millimeter water per month is needed to produce a reasonably good crop of rice. So you can see from this data that Yoshida suggested across the Asian countries that you need on an average 1800 to 300 it is per month, 180 to 300 millimeter of water per month. In 4 months, an irrigated rice cultivar will consume 720 to 1200 millimeter of water. The average water requirement of irrigated rice at various locations in Southeast Asia was reported to be about 1240 millimeter per crop. So if somebody asks me, what is the water requirement of our rice? Just tell me one figure. So that one figure could be 1250 millimeter. So you can say 125 centimeter or 1250 millimeter per crop of rice. It is 1240, just I rounded off to 1250 millimeter of water. However, cultivation is limited to areas where rainfall exceeds 1000 millimeter, means minimum rainfall for successful cultivation of rice should be at least 1000 millimeter. And you can see different people have given different water requirement depending upon the season of rice growth, depending upon the soil type, and also variety. These three important factors affect the water requirement. Number one, climatic condition, that is temperature regime. Number two, soil conditions, soil factors will affect the water requirement. And third one is plant factor. The variety, shorter the duration of the variety, less is the water requirement, longer the duration of the variety, more is the water requirement. So these three factors will affect the water requirement. Tripathi said that water requirement of lowland rice in India is 1566 millimeter in a clay loam soil and 1262 millimeter in a sandy loam soil. So you can say water requirement is changing with the soil type. In light texture soils, it is high. In heavy texture soils, it is less. Gupta 2002 estimated water use for lowland rice in Indo-Gangetic plains and varied from 1144 to 1560 millimeter. So they are varying water requirement. In Philippines, it can be 1300 to 1500 millimeter in dry season and 1400 to 1900 millimeter in wet season. So you can see in dry season, water requirement is less. In wet season, it is, in wet season, it is more. In wet season, you might be having higher temperatures, higher evaporation rate. In dry season, that may not be the case. Improving water use efficiency is thus fundamental because you have seen that the water requirement of rice are very, very high. They are very, very variable. One cannot say that this is the exact water requirement, but as a student, general average value of water requirement is 1250 millimeter. And you can see this picture, water requirement. Suppose one variety is growing for 100 days, 140 days, and it has got 3 different phases: vegetative phase, reproductive phase, and ripening phase. So here you can see out of 100 units of water used by the crop, or 100 units was the water requirement of the crop, then 30% was consumed during vegetative phase and 15% during ripening phase, but 55% of the water requirement was during reproductive phase. So you can say reproductive phase is very, very important for rice productivity. So roughly more than half of the water is consumed during reproductive phase. The response of rice to water stress at vegetative stage has been reported primarily in terms of reduced height, tillers and leaf area. If water stress is there at vegetative stage, then it will affect the vegetative parameters like tiller number, plant height, leaf area. At reproductive stage, it will affect the spikelet fertility, or you will get more sterile spikelets if there is shortage of water. The most critical water deficit stage is 10 days before leading up to flowering. However, overall, you can say that reproductive stage is most critical, but within reproductive stage, you can say the most critical water deficit stage is 10 days period leading to flowering, means 10 days just before flowering is the most critical stage of rice for water. During the time period, high sterility brought on by water stress is irreversible, and adequate water at later stage is totally ineffective in reducing this outcome. However, if water stress occurs during the early vegetative stage, plants can recover. In vegetative stage, there is no big issue, but in reproductive stage, it is really, once it is lost, it is lost. So thank you for this part. I can open the other part.